Tuning in to episode 42 of Politically Conscious today, 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, as our experts break down Florida Surgeon General Joseph Ladapo's bold move, making Florida the first state to end vaccine mandates. We also revisit President Trump's controversial decision to deploy federal troops to Chicago without Mayor Brandon Johnson's request. If you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us live on YouTube. What's up, everybody? It's your mental activist, Montoya Smith, and welcome to Politically Conscious episode 42. I'm working on to get our political experts on the show with us. Get up, brother. Just jumped in here with me, brother Shelly Winters. Thank you for being with us, brother. How you doing this morning?
I am good, Montoya. I'm good.
Now, glad to have you. This is the man, Shelly Winters of the Shelly Winters Show. So thank you for rocking with us for a couple times a month. We do this thing where we basically review political clips from around the web and give our take on it. Shelly comes from the right conservative lean of things. Our brother Emil Bryan will be with us in a few minutes. He comes from the left of things, and I try to moderate as best as possible. And so with that, Shelly, man, just introduce yourself, and we're going to get started with some clip, and Emil should be joining us shortly.
No problem. Shelly Winter, host of the Shelly Winter Show on 95.5 WSB every night, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. to 9 p.m. Please check me out. I'll be on live tonight. I got a lot to say. Some of it I'll tease here, but got a lot to say. Interesting times we're living in.
Absolutely. Oh, to say the least, right? Like if you think about throughout our lives, we kind of live throughout our lives where that comment gets said throughout our lives at various times in our lives, like interesting times. I think this might be like the precipice of it, like the various times that we've experienced it in our lifetime.
In our particular lifetime, I would say that I have, and it's not just politics, it's everything. I would say that, I was there when the internet started. Now it's AI, just with it's hard to describe because politics is so much a part of it, but it's also social, it's cultural. There's a lot going on that can be unnerving to many people, but if it also can be an opportunity for millions.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, the emerging of all this stuff emerging. So yeah, it makes sense. But we're gonna go ahead and get started with our clip and just kind of kick off today's show, if you will, with this information right here. Is presser with President Trump. We're not gonna play the whole clip, but we're gonna play a part of it just to get the conversation started today. And I'm pretty sure if you pay attention to politics, probably a lot of you probably already seen some of this clip.
Mr. President. How was your
You say that, darling, that's fake news.
Well, why would you the Department of Defense?
Listen, be quiet. Listen. You don't listen. You never listen. That's why you're second rate. We're not going to war. We're going to clean up our cities. We're going to clean them up so they don't kill 5 people every weekend. That's not war. That's common sense.
How is your Are you ready to move to the second phase? Are you ready to move to the second phase of sanctions against Russia or punishing Putin?
How was your call with the Prime Minister?
What do you think of all the establishment attacks on RFK Jr.?
Well, he's a different kind of a guy. He's got a lot of good ideas, but he's got a lot of ideas. Normally they don't have any ideas, and that's why we have problems with autism and so many other things, because we're coming up with the answers for autism. You watch. We're coming up with the answers for other things that normal people, regular people, easy to get along with people wouldn't be able to do. He's got a lot of ideas, and so do I, and we're going to clean it up. Why? Let me ask you. Yeah. Really higher than Chicago? Excuse me. Do you know how many people were killed in Chicago last weekend? 8. You know how many people were killed in Chicago the week before? 7. You know how many people were wounded? 74 people were wounded. You think there's worse than that? I don't think so.
Got our brother Emil Bryan on with us as well. Thank you, Emil, for joining us. Looking for clean and fresh.
You know what I got to do, man? I got to stop just coming on this podcast all the time, not worrying about what I got on. You know,
Because Emil looking the part for real.
Coming on there clean. He got the Black Panther backdrops all the time, all kind of crazy stuff, clean shaven, and I'm just still in bed with the backdrop behind me. So, all right, I need an image consultant.
I can dig it. But let's start with you. And for anybody out there, if you're first time watching Emil Bryant, as I mentioned prior to him coming on, he's our consultant from the left, political consultant. We're going to keep this thing rolling. Shelly, you just saw the presser with President Trump. Your thoughts, Emil, I think you caught some of the tail end. The beginning of it was just, before you got on, was just him highlighting going into Chicago. And then I think you caught in by the time RFK, he talked about RFK. But Shelly, any thoughts on that presser that we just saw?
Yes, he's right. I think the inflammatory language was used by the reporter by saying why, or I think she said why, or are you going to war with Chicago? I think that was incredibly inflammatory. Now, is there a war of words? Absolutely, there's a war of words. But I thought that I think he was absolutely right. Now, of course, you're dealing with Trump, who will say that's why you're second rate. Taking all of that out of it, he was absolutely right to say we're not going at war. We're following the law. We're being law enforcement. We're doing our jobs that you won't do. The reason why ICE is going into Chicago, because Chicago is flouting federal law, plain and simple. And I'll say this as an example. When Eisenhower sent the National Guard into Mississippi, right, it wasn't because Eisenhower was an authoritarian or a fascist or anything else. It was because Mississippi was not, they were flouting federal law that had just passed. So there was a law had just passed saying you can't segregate. You got to let this young lady into this school. You got to let these people into these schools. And the governor, Flaubus, had said, no, we're not letting them into school. So he was flouting federal law. And that allowed Eisenhower to say, well, okay, you're flouting federal law. We're sending in the National Guard to protect this young lady in order for her to go to school. And you have the famous Norman Rockwell painting coming out of that. And we love that. Right? That was the government backing up federal law on something that had to happen. This is the same thing. Now, you may not like the federal law, but it is law. If you're an illegal immigrant, you broke federal law to get here. You broke immigrant law to get here. Federal law, immigration laws to get here. So he has every right to do it.
Let me ask this real quick before you go, Emil, because I was questioning. Shelly, you may recall, like you were on the show a few weeks ago, and you and Emil had a kind of an impasse on whether what Trump did in D.C. would he do in another city, and y'all were in disagreement. But if I'm listening to you clearly, learning from you, you're highlighting this is more focused on the federal law of what he's trying to do in regards to ICE. Which is a little different than what y'all were contesting that was happening in D.C.
Absolutely.
I'm learning as I'm hearing you speak it out. But go ahead.
Yeah, in D.C., before Emil goes, I apologize, Emil. In D.C., he sent the National Guard, federal law enforcement, DEA, things like that. In D.C., he did that. Here, he's sending ICE. And because Chicago as a sanctuary city is flouting, and Illinois is a sanctuary state, they're flouting federal immigration laws.
Is it semantics, Emil? What are your thoughts, brother? I think it might, and I say semantics because he highlights the actual crime, which is kind of the thing in D.C. But I hear Shelly saying he's going in on the federal, which Shelly's correct on what he's going in legally as. So I think he's correct about that. But it sounds like semantics, since the focus ends up being, in my opinion, the same thing that he touted in D.C. But again, just my thoughts, my question to you: is it semantics? How do you see it?
First of all, let's go back to the facts that he put Donald J. Trump in his social media, China-apocalypse, and you're going to find out, Chicago, why it's called the Department of War, all caps WAR. So don't tell me, Shelly, or anyone else that he's not declaring war, because that's exactly what he did through his social media. He used a picture from Apocalypse Now It wasn't parody. It wasn't a joke. He was serious, and that was some bullshit. So don't even come at me and say it's not a declaration of war against the city of Chicago. The pretense is immigration. No, sir. I'm quoting facts now, Shelley. I'm not saying he didn't do this. I'm not saying he did it. It's in the record.
I understand.
So you can't say he didn't say it's going to be a war. He put war in all caps. The pretense is a civil penalty for immigration law offense. It is not a criminal policy. It is a civil penalty. The law is very clear. If you break immigration law, if you illegally immigrate to the United States, you will be deported. You do not have to go to jail. You may be fined, but you are not, and you will be arrested as a point of order for a civil offense. It is not a crime in the context of penal code. That is the law. That is federal law right now. So to say that he's sending all these ICE agents in, it's going to be ICE first, just like LA, and then he's going to send in troops to protect the ICE agents as they do their jobs. And that's how he's going to use federal military troops, whether they're National Guard or active duty. He's made it clear by policy and by action and by social media that he intends to wage war against the city of Chicago. And his point during the presser was that it's about crime. The illegal immigrants are not the main cause of crime in Chicago. So you can't say you will reduce crime, but that's not the main driver. So we cannot have a discussion about immigration law without he didn't talk about immigration law exclusively in the presser. He talked about criminal law, shooting, injuries, which I understand he did.
Let me jump it back.
But that's bigger than. But that's more than what we're talking about with Ruby Bridges.
You made your point well. So let me jump it back to Shelley. So right now, Shelley, just listening to two of you, I think from 3 weeks ago, Emil appears to be right when y'all were saying he would go in. I'm just telling you based on listening.
Well, let me tell you. Let me
Emil, go ahead. Yeah, I want you to go ahead.
Well, you mentioned earlier about semantics. That's what Emil just did. He played semantics. Yes, it's a civil penalty, but you get deported. If you're an illegal immigrant in, say, Rabun County, right, and you get pulled over for a DUI and you have no papers, no ID, you're illegal. You'll get detained, arrested, held until ICE comes to get you to deport you, right? In Chicago, they will arrest you and send you home, and they won't call ICE. So the problem where the semantics comes in is in what Emil says. You're breaking federal law because, as he admitted, you're supposed to be deported if you're here illegally. If it's a civil, whether it's civil or penal, it doesn't matter. You're supposed to be arrested and turned over to ICE. If you're not doing that and you declare yourself, we're not doing that, you're flouting federal law because you're supposed to be deported, to Emil's admission.
I have no problem with that, but one of the unfunded mandates, and the states have gone back and forth over this very issue for the last several decades. Shelley, you and I both know this. The states have said, you do not have the right to take our law enforcement and use it for federal immigration. It is a voluntary policy, state by state, whether or not they do that. Some states will volunteer and use their local state law enforcement resources to facilitate immigration, and some states do not. That's not been controversial. What's controversial is how it's being manipulated to use that pretense to get more federal troops, more federal presence into the city of Chicago, because there are many states where there's the same exact problem and it's not happening because those states either are not red or are not blue, or those are not the cities he specifically pointed out. So I'm not going to say that that's not true. It is true that states can, but they do not have a mandate by federal law to turn over arrested illegal immigrants. That has been a point of contention for decades. And the states that do it well, and the states that don't do it have their own problems and their own solutions to that very issue. So I'm not going to say that it's the federal government saying they must do this, because that's not true.
Shelly, I gotta say this, and I'll go to another clip real quick. So the rhetoric is not about what you're speaking of, though. I'm just I'm just saying, I'm saying Trump's rhetoric is about the crime that has, and not about immigration. At least
The crime
so
is
I'm saying his rhetoric
immigration is
not
the crime. Immigration is the crime. Illegal immigration is the crime.
But he's talking about cleaning
He's
up
talking
our
about
streets.
things that are being committed. If you live in Chicago and you talk to gangbangers in Chicago, there's a large number of Latin gangs in Chicago. It's not just the GDs and the Croods and the Crips. There's a bunch of gangs in Chicago, all battling over turf over the last 25, 30 years. And there's Latino gangs and everything else. So that is a part of the crime. If you listen to but the overall thing is, if you're an illegal immigrant, you're a criminal. Now, you may not see it as a criminal like we use the word, right. You know what I'm saying? Right. And that's part of the hyperbole in which people are speaking, which is why I disagree with this. I disagree with Fox pointing out every time an illegal immigrant kills somebody, right? Because, it associates. It makes an association. Right. And I understand the crime could be avoided, but by that definition, every crime could be avoided. You know what I'm saying? Like, I understand the argument is if they're not here illegally, the person wouldn't have been dead. Right. But if the person's here illegally and they're allowed to stay here illegally, that crime could have been prevented. That's a logical 1 + 1 + 1 = 3, right? And so, but there's a lot of hyperbole around it in order to push the illegal immigration and to deport people. But when he talks about criminals, illegal immigration is a criminal act in and of itself. So if you're here illegally, you're by definition committed a crime, whether you've been pulled over or not.
All right, cool. Let me run through a couple of comments real quick, and then we'll play another cut. That's why we're here, to weed through the propaganda. So we got one that says, oh my God, Shelly, we love you. So happy. Somebody's glad to have you back, Shelly. All right.
Oh, thank you.
We got another one that says, let's see. This man is out of control. Stop trying to defend him, Shelly. He's going to turn you against your guys next. He's using troops against American citizens. Let's see.
I don't see that. And that guy, he looks familiar. I think I worked with him. I don't believe that's not true. He's not using police against American citizens. There's nothing that says that. In Washington, D.C., the left said the National Guard was going to be shooting black people in the streets. Now they're complaining that the National Guard is being used to clean up garbage. In Chicago, ICE is being used to target already identified illegal immigrants. So that's not American citizens by definition. So, thank you.
I see Emil shaking your head. So let me see what Emil has to say.
So the Supreme Court, in its shadow docket, without a properly worded opinion, said that you can racially profile Latinos specifically, but not exclusively. They did not use the word Latino, so I won't say that in that context, but that's what the ruling was about, that Latino people who do certain things can be racially profiled. That is by the Supreme Court. Okay. So now we have American citizens who meet that definition where there's a problem. I'm not going to equivocate on that. You cannot separate a person of Latin descent who might be or might not be speaking Spanish as their first language, or who's a manual laborer, or who hangs out at a day labor site. You cannot say that that person is not definitively an American citizen or is definitively an illegal immigrant. You have to weed through them. So there will be American citizens who are caught up. Hold on, Shelly. There are business owners who were born in East LA who are American citizens who are being detained because they look like illegal immigrants. And I don't know what an illegal immigrant looks like, because I've met some who don't fit that profile. They come from other continents other than Latin America. They come from other countries other than the ones identified, and they're not going to be simply illegal or not.
I agree. I agree with you. I don't disagree with you. But the Supreme Court, even before this 6-3 conservative majority, has always defended what we would call profiling by law enforcement. That is not a new ruling by the Supreme Court, and there's case history behind it. And so what happens is the legalese of it is that what's racial profiling, right? So here's the legalese. This is what law enforcement says. Law enforcement, and this is black cops, white cops, doesn't matter. Law enforcement says if I'm in a high crime neighborhood and I see someone walking down the street in a high crime neighborhood, I have a reasonable suspicion that that person could be up to no good. Why? Not because they're black, not because they're young, not because they're not white or anything else. It's because it's a high crime neighborhood. And so so we call that's good law enforcement as law enforcement sees it. Right. And that's what the Supreme Court was ruling on. In other words, if I go to Home Depot on Ponce de Leon right now, or not now, it's 11 o'clock, but it's 7:30 in the morning, and there's 20 people there standing there as day laborers, there's a high probability that most of them, if not all of them, are going to be here illegally. That's going to be a high probability. Now, do I agree that I should swipe all of them up, put them in a truck, and then run their paperwork? No. But if I'm law enforcement, there's a high probability that many of them are going to be illegal immigrants. And if you take ourselves out of the political realm and out of the emotional realm, as black men driving down the street, we make that assumption every single day.
Yes, as well. Yeah, fair enough. We got another comment real quick, and I'm going to the clip. No response to this. Emil, excellent point. So, Shelley, what's the truth? What's the real reason the decision has been made to send federal troops to Chicago?
I love to answer that. I said that already. It's because of illegal immigration, because Chicago and the state of Illinois have stated over the last probably 12 years that they are a sanctuary state and city. Meaning if you're an illegal immigrant and you get across that border and you get to Chicago, no one's going to bother you.
Right. Gotcha.
And so is San Francisco, and so are several other major cities around the country that are not under threat of federal invasion. So we cannot just necessarily call out Chicago as the bastion or the hotbed of sanctuary policy. That's not true. The truth is there are several large cities across the country that are sanctuary cities or sanctuary states.
And again, I'm trying to listen as logically as I can. So I hear you, Emil, but it's also being coupled with the high crime, unfortunately, with Chicago.
But Chicago's not the highest crime. It doesn't even meet the top 10 in several statistics. So yes, I don't conflate a concentration of population with high crime, but you will have that because of the numbers. New York, Chicago, LA, and other places that are highly dense are going to have more raw numbers of crime. But if you're looking at the rate of crime, Chicago doesn't even crack the top 10 in most categories. Why? Because that density doesn't translate to more crime per capita. And that's the problem here.
Again, that's semantics, my brother, because
it's not semantics, it's math. It's just plain math.
No, listen. So crime is tabulated in various different ways. You can find a city like Chicago and find a tabulation based on per 100,000 that would drop it out of the top 10, top 20. Why? Because there's so many people. But if you look at pure numbers, not based on population, stats lie. They're made to lie. And I see this all the time on Facebook. Oh, Washington, D.C. is not even a top 10. Well, that's because you're looking at it based on per 100,000 or based on murders only or whatever. But if you look at the general scope of things, these cities have high crime areas and they're dangerous cities. And there's no way around that. This reminds me of the conversation we had leading up to the 2024 election when many of my left friends were saying there's no problem at the border. Right? It's the same thing. Oh, there's no problem with crime. if as African Americans, we know there's a problem with crime, and the problem with crime largely exists in the areas that we live in. Now, that's not because we're black that the high crime, but the areas that we live in, that are in these urban areas, there is a crime problem. And we need to admit that, because the world is, and I'll say this, and I'll wait for Emil to come back so he can, he may not hear me, but I'll say this. The world is getting increasingly, and it's being pushed by the right and the conservatives and Twitter and things like that. I admit that, because the left is not touching it for fear of breaking the narrative. But we're living in a world that's increasingly getting closer and closer to not having any sympathy nor empathy for the black community if we don't get this crime problem fixed in our own backyards.
So here's what I'll say. And hold on one second. See if I can get a mail back.
He said he's back, but we don't see him.
Yeah, I got it back. All right, cool. So
don't be running, Emil.
No, I heard it all, Shelly. I was out for a minute. Yeah. But I'm going to let Monte go before I go.
Yeah. I'm actually going to go to the clip because it's going to help continue the conversation. Right now, I'm letting y'all beat me up and I'm bullying me on the clips, which I'm cool with that because it's a good dialogue. So what I'll say is we do have to, it is necessary to own high crime areas. I'm never about using the stats to make a position that doesn't render the reality of a high crime area. A high crime area, and Shelly, you've heard me talk about this plenty of times before, the factors that make a high crime area have nothing at all to do with race, right? But we also, but where I disagree with you, Shelly, is this, is we actually make the mistake of not realizing that the high crime areas we end up making the mistake of, I agree with you on this. We don't own the high crime areas as African Americans. That's kind of your point, Shelly, right? I want you to walk through me on like we don't like we use stats to kind of say, oh, crime's not that bad. That's your point right now. You're saying
right.
do. Yeah, I'm gonna make my point.
We know as people who live in these areas, we know crime is bad.
Right. So here's where I would challenge you to have some balance. So the mistake that we do make is, while I'm absolutely willing to own the high crime areas, there is a hot spot. For example, in Chicago, hot spot is an FBI term. There's a hot spot in Chicago that is the equivalent to the murder rate in Honduras. And the FBI designates hot spots because the reality is a hot spot will have murder and crime so high that the number for the area, you will think the whole area is messed up because the hot spot, which has rightfully been identified by the FBI. The issue is that's where you open. So the FBI takes that information and says, okay, let's over police because there is actually results of over policing in hotspot areas being affected. Where we were arguing with you a few weeks ago, Shelly, where over policing isn't necessarily effective in a broader area, if that makes sense. I'm talking about the nuance of this. So the one thing that I would challenge you on is this, Shelly, when you say in the African American community, what happens is we actually mistakenly take the high crime areas and say, hey, that's where we come from. And the reality is the majority of African Americans don't live in hot spots or high crime areas.
So who lives in a hot spot? Who lives in the hotspot area of Chicago that the FBI delineated? Who lives there?
I don't know. I look at the information now, but when you go look at it, it shows you the radiuses and the blocks.
I understand that, but I understand that, but who lives there?
Oh yeah. So I'm saying I'm absolutely saying black people live in that hot spot. What I'm saying is,
but see again, Montoya,
the conflation that I'm. Let me at least make the point. The conflation that I'm challenging is, I'm saying we will say, hey, black people need to acknowledge that the majority of black people are not living in those spots. So I'm saying that
I don't understand what you're saying. I don't understand what you're saying. Is the hot spot that you're talking about in Chicago majority black area?
That one definitely is.
Yeah, okay. So that the majority of black people live in a hot spot crime area. I just said that.
No, that's not what he said. He said in the hotspot, there is the majority of people who live in that hotspot are black. The majority of black people, to Montoya's point, do not live in a hotspot. That's the point. That's the broader point. And he's trying to address the conflation of the two.
So let me ask you a question. There's no conflation of the two. Let me ask you a question. What is your point in saying that?
So when we have political narrative, we have a political narrative.
No, what's your point you're saying?
I'm going to make the point.
All right.
So we have a political narrative that continuously says that black people need to address the general population of black people.
Right.
Need to address and admit that we live in areas that have high crime.
Right.
I'm saying,
you just admitted that.
So
the majority of people.
No, I did not.
My point is the majority of black people do not live in those areas. By far. It's not even close.
So let me explain something to you. Because this is semantics. Past semantics, this is mental gymnastics at its best. So let me explain my perspective. When I make that statement, I'm saying that if we, the collective of majority of black people, don't fix that hot spot where a majority of black people live in that hot spot, then this problem will not be fixed. And it'll be heavy-handed government that will come in and fix it as they see fit. Does that make sense?
Yes, makes sense.
Okay, there you go. And that's all I've been saying.
Okay, and so I've always highlighted that when the political narrative says, like you said on the show a few weeks ago, we don't care about one body. The only people that are in there trying to fix it and take care of that issue is us, because we do go to those spots. We do have the KD boys, we do have the Chris James, we do have the Sinceres of the world that actually do what politically gets said. We put it out there like our community doesn't care. Right. We actually go in the
Let's go back to another
every
argument.
day
Let's
more
go back
than
to
any
another
other
argument.
community. So we should not ever say we don't care.
No disrespect to anybody you mentioned, because I know a lot of them, but clearly it's not working in that hotspot. In that hotspot, hold on. Whoever's doing the work in that hotspot.
You're at a 30-year low, it's working, brother. You're at a 30-year low.
Okay, no, you just said the FBI delineated this majority black area.
Watch this. If a hot spot, here's actual numbers in Chicago. 4 years ago, they were at 4,000 shootings.
Now you're going to the bigger, broader picture.
Watch Let me finish. We're at 4,000 shootings. There were 700 murders. So the people that are doing the work, the KD boys, the father fledglers who are saying, Trump, do not come in here, they've reduced it to 400 murders. That's almost half. Here it is. So it's still a hot spot, but don't tell me the 30. They're saying here's what we're doing. That's
the last time I was on. Don't go back to that.
What I'm trying to show you is you said I call it a hot spot.
Right.
So if you have a hot spot that has created this many, and now there is the KD boys, the Sinceres are going in there, and they've actually done something that's reduced it. You acknowledge the reduction. It doesn't necessarily, that automatically doesn't make it not a hot spot, but you're saying because it's still a hot spot, their work is not working. You literally just said that on this show.
I'm literally saying to you, and I'll say it again. We're fast becoming a areas and group of people where if it's not fixed, right? Because like I said before, one body to some people is one too many. You're saying the decline of 50% from 800 murders.
No, I'm not.
No, you said that. You said it was at 800. Now it's at 400. It went down 50%. I'm telling you that there's millions and millions of people around the country and the world who, unless you're at war with another country, 400 is too many. 399 is too many. And I understand.
You're not going to go to zero overnight. You know this. We all know this. Human behavior doesn't fire overnight. It doesn't matter.
Listen, you know who doesn't want to hear it's not going to happen?
Care, Shelley. I care so much. I'm out there every day trying to make sure nobody else
We're not
dies.
talking about that, Montoya. We're not talking about that. I'm talking about the reality.
But that's how you do it. You don't cut it overnight.
I'm talking about the reality.
Name a nation or an example where you cut crime overnight, Shelley. Give me one in history.
Give me one in history where crime has been so high that you can't cut it in one night. And that's my point. There's a group of people that when one
Shelley,
person,
you just one of your points is that if we stay on this trend, there will be people who ignore or totally disregard our plight. Do you know that's how we got here? We got here because our plight was being ignored. Our inner cities, our areas were being ignored by the majority. It was intentional. We could talk about deurbanization. We could talk about urban reconstruction and all the things that happened to make our neighborhoods less safe than they were 50, 60 years ago. Those things are not proof that we don't care about ourselves. They're proof that the majority who controls this government chose to make policy decisions that harmed our community. So when you say if we don't fix it, they won't care, we had it fixed, they still didn't care.
So here's my point. I'm staying on the bigger picture, what we started with about Trump, ICE, law enforcement. I'm staying there. I'm not moving around. So then explain to me this. Why then?
You're the one who brought up that they won't care if we keep the trend. We didn't bring that up. Montoya was very clear about what was going on.
We're increasingly becoming to a point. When I say they, I'm not talking about the people who never cared, obviously. I'm talking about the people who said they've cared for many years and still haven't done what you said. Because Chicago just finished 2 terms of a mayor that had that implemented law enforcement policies that allowed for more criminality. And then we elected another mayor that even doubled down on those same policies. So when you come to me and say they who didn't care, then why are we voting for people that clearly are not caring because they're not helping the problem in any situation? You have cities around the country that after George Floyd said you can steal up to $1,000 and not go to jail. That doesn't help the community. That drives out businesses. You have people that said there are people walking the streets now. That guy that just killed the lady in North Carolina was arrested 12 times, not for jaywalking, not for smoking weed, for assaults, serious crimes.
So
when you have that and you're looking at that, you can't tell me I'm looking from the outside looking in that millions of people on the outside looking in and saying, oh, yeah, they care about fixing crime. I know we do. But you're fast allowing a group of people around the country to say, no, they don't, and we have to fix it ourselves. And it has nothing to do with racism or Republicans or anything else. That has to do with the perception of people. You have gentrified cities. I told this story before about the bartender in Atlanta. You have white people living in downtown Atlanta. You have white people living in areas of Chicago. Those people don't want to put up with even one murder. We're telling people that we've made progress because we only had 400 murders.
No, that's not what we're telling people.
You did say that. You said it.
No, we are making progress, Shelley, but the progress isn't complete.
I got to go to this clip. The entire country is outraged about mass murders. But we can't, but they continue to go up, even though the entire country is outraged. So it's just, I hate the conflation that you give that some type of outrage is somehow the reason that somebody else does something that you assume that we don't do. I do hate that. One of the viewers agrees with you. Shambay Trader says, totally agree that we in Capitalize need to fix it, or the government definitely will come in and as they see it. So he agrees with Shelley. Here's some a clip that I've been trying to get to.
You all stood up there and said you will not allow Trump to come in here and get these illegals. Yeah, you can smile. We're in $1 billion deficit. And you spent half of our money, half of that on illegals. You campaign and double down that you would not raise property taxes.
I won't raise your property taxes.
You wanted to raise our taxes $300 million. They shut it down. Now we back here for $150 million. Okay. See, this is what we asking now. Since you want to crash out, some of y'all said y'all willing to go to jail for it. Trump, Tom Homan, make an example out this Negro right here first. Please come here first, because you know what? We're going to help you. We want to forensic.
Ma'am, I would ask that you,
keep
your, hold on a second. Stop her time. Stop her time. Just a second. Just a second. Stop her time. Ma'am, I would ask that you, if you want to continue speaking, you have to make sure that your language is appropriate, okay? All right.
Alex.
Okay, you can begin her time again.
You're going to spend our tax dollars to go, Michael Rodriguez, you said to take Trump to court to protect these illegals. That's cool, because we about to make all of y'all aldermen famous. Y'all think this is how it's going to ride? I think not. Flip Chicago red. We not playing.
This was going to happen to you. You got Cash Patel and Pam Bundy that you're going to have to deal with sooner than later. Then it's going to be an audit. Next, it's going to be an investigation. Then it's going to be an indictment. Conviction. That's what's going to happen to you.
Mr. Brandon Johnson, I'm up here. I am speaking right now, so I would love your undivided attention, please. I'll wait. So this just proves to you the lack of leadership that you show in this city. You can't even give me straight eye contact. Now, I'm going to let you know now, the people of Chicago, we're done with you. It is insane how we have been voting Democrat for over 60 plus years, and we've never seen a change from people like you, Lori Lightfoot, Robbie Manuel. It is insane. Chicago was 37% red. In 2020, it was only 15%. So we're waking up. So you can pretend that this isn't happening, but I know for a fact that you will not have that seat the next election.
You so strong about protecting those aliens, but you won't do nothing for the U.S. citizens.
I got a great way how we can what we can do with this budget. First, let's start with cutting off illegals, getting free everything. Free housing, free schooling, free food. Yeah, let's start with that. That'll save us a lot of money. What, $600 million? Let's start there. Then let's start with your salary. You are going down in history.
So one of our viewers from last week sent me that, and so I wanted to definitely get y'all thoughts on that video. Emil, I'll start with you.
I love the passion. And you know me, Montoya, anytime people stand up to their government, I'm here for it. What I don't like is all red, but I'm going to give it to passion of the policy that the mayor has fronted.
I'm gonna have to have you.
Okay, I'm sorry.
I know you've been traveling, so it is what it is. So I'm gonna shoot to Shelly, jump out, and then have you come back in. Again, one of our watchers, we've had Leo on the last couple of weeks, sent me that after our conversations. I'll give you some context. I was highlighting the last couple of weeks, Shelly, that I've been for the past month and a half, before this situation even came up with Trump going to D.C., that I've been highlighting the work of Brandon Johnson, the brother in Baltimore and the brother in Montgomery, Alabama, on my page. I've been highlighting that I felt like they had done some actual things that some mayors in the past had not done. That was something that I was highlighting. Brother Leo had come on the last couple of weeks and challenged and said, hey, why is this just not coming out? Why are they waiting for Trump to do something to highlight it? My pushback was, well, I've been highlighting it, and not that I expect the media to highlight those brothers, but I was just highlighting, I've been seeing this work before this even became a thing. So I want to give you some context. And again, one of our viewers sent that. So I'll let you give a response, and then we got to move back on.
So here's the thing, Montoya, and I know those sisters, and I know the brother in Chicago very well. I met them at when I was in DC during the inauguration that weekend, and we spoke at length. The problem is this, right? these problems have existed, right? And I get what y'all are saying. Yes, it doesn't happen overnight. Yes, people are working on it. The problems have existed for decades. For decades. Those people live there. They're frustrated. And it takes time, like Emil says, yes, it takes time for you to spend $10 million on a program. Well, guess what? Chicago has always spent money on programs. It's midnight basketball. It's mentorship. It's all of these things. They also pay almost $30,000 a year to teachers. And the test scores are lower than they were 25 years ago. So people that live in these areas, they are frustrated. And I don't care about white people. I don't care about Democrat, Republican. Those people are frustrated. They're not paid by Trump. They weren't paid during the election by Trump. They are frustrated. They live in their communities and they're like, yo, why is nothing changing? Why am I under the same problems from 20, 25, 30 years ago? And all the same people have been in charge. And for the most part, they look like me. That's their problem. And I don't begrudge people that are angry who live there. I judge the people who don't live there, who point at them and say they're acting, they're coons, they're sellouts and things like that. Those people live there. And they see kids dying in their homes or on their porches hit by stray bullets. And the answer from the Democrats are, oh, the guns are coming from Indiana. Yet Indiana doesn't have a gun problem. If all the guns are coming from Indiana, that means they have a bunch of guns. They don't have a gun problem. So it's not the guns. And until here's my point. We have to look in a mirror and be completely honest with ourselves. And until we do that as a people, there's going to come a point in time when they say, hey, you want your own area? We'll give you Idaho, fence it off, do what you want to do. And what will we do? Racism. They hate us because we're black. That's what we're getting to. We have to look in the mirror and say, damn, I look fat in these jeans. And we have to be able to tell each other, damn, Montoya, you look fat in those jeans. I'm telling you, dog, because increasingly you're losing progressives. You're losing white female progressives. This Ukrainian lady on a train, you're losing progressives. She was an ally. She wasn't some MAGA. She wasn't walking around with a red T-shirt on. She worked at a pizza parlor. She was on your team, our team. She was an ally. And she got slaughtered on a train. White female progressives who run the entire black messaging and black narratives in this country, you're losing them. And once you lose them, once we lose them, we have no allies. None. And so we can
good. We don't need them if they're going to flip because of that. I want people who are co-conspirators and not just allies. Fair weather friends are no good for us.
Right. Well, it doesn't matter, but they're flipping because they don't feel safe. That's why they're flipping, period. Now, you can talk about the narratives. You can talk about all the other stuff.
It's not a narrative. That man was mentally disturbed. His mother tried to get him help. The system failed her and him and that victim. That system, he was called out for his violence. He was arrested multiple times. He should have been incarcerated. He was already put into a mental institution. They let him out. This is a problem on the specific her. Yes, I know the object.
Yeah, we're struggling to hear you.
Tell you, in my opinion,
we're getting the gist of what you're saying, but we're definitely struggling to hear you. I'm gonna.
Can you hear now without video?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Emil.
What I'm saying is that we can't figure out the first
yeah, we still have a way
to.
Can't make it out. Sorry,
I'll reserve my words until I'm in a better space.
Okay. Let me say something. This is my point. This is what I mean. We got to get away. Emil, from the 30,000 square foot political, I would even dare say theoretical space, Emil is absolutely right. He's right. But from a ground level where people live in neighborhoods and communities and not blue states or red states, and they live in pockets of neighborhoods, That's where people are making their decisions. That's where the fear is coming from. And the more you have young people moving into urban areas because of gentrification. We see it all over the country, right? We complain about that. They're moving in, right? And they're feeling unsafe. And you can't convince somebody like that, oh, you know what? We're safer because there's only been 15 murders this weekend and not 10, which it was, or 30, which it was last weekend. Because these
I agree. Let me say this real quick, and we're going to play another clip real quick. So I absolutely understand that, because you're talking to someone who stays on the ground, right? I stay on the ground. I think that the political narratives from both sides miss what's actually happening on the ground. And I'm 1,000% with you on this understanding that I don't simply say 700 to 400 as if I don't understand that regardless of, you can improve it down to 10%. But if my child got lost and I've been living here when it was 700, it still feels like shit ain't changing. So I want you to understand that, Shelly, when I say the numbers, I'm not doing the political, dismissive, oh, things are okay. That's not me at all, specifically for someone who stays on the ground and lives in College Park. Like, I still live in the neighborhoods that we're talking about. And I just want to just kind of say that where I agree with you, Shelly, is you can't just go to the numbers from a 35,000 foot political narrative standpoint. I agree 1,000%. I just say, as somebody on the ground, I think both parties misses the boat. And I think we still should always pay attention to the people who are actually doing the work. And I get that the money and the politics doesn't make it that easy. I'm not sitting here saying that the person on the ground has all the answers, because we don't understand. That person doesn't understand how all the politics of it all works. So there's going to be missing knowledge from both ends of it, right? The person that ran as the politician and say, hey, I'm going to help this community, but they don't do the work. So they have to listen to. So I'm just saying there are parts of the narratives that neither party listens to from the people on the ground. That's just kind of my final statement on that. The one thing I'll say about that actual video is, when we talk about weeding through the propaganda, we're talking about a media thing. So when you have the video just be all outward MAGA supporters on that video going at Brandon, because I still think the work that he and the guy in Baltimore and Montgomery is still good work. I stand by that, and I absolutely understand that they live there, but there's propaganda in that video that you're propping up people who are pushing their political side to go at him. I would have loved.
You know those three people?
Go ahead.
Those three people before Brandon ran, they were the supporters of the lady. Okay. They voted for the lady. They were supporters of the lady. They became MAGA because of her.
Gotcha.
And then Brandon ran, and they supported the the white guy that was a conservative.
Okay.
And then Brandon won the primary, and then they went off of. These people they're not like me.
Gotcha.
They haven't been conservatives for 25 years.
Right. Okay.
These people were liberals, dyed-in-the-wool liberals, who saw that nothing was changing.
Nice. Okay. Good context. Great context.
Now, with the T-shirts and the hats and stuff, there is viral.
Yeah, they're grandstanding at this point. But your point is because you know them, they're not one. Because that was my view as somebody who doesn't know them. So thanks for the deeper dialogue, because I know you know them. But yeah, it looked like, I was just saying, if I had to look at it from a propaganda standpoint, it appeared to be. But I respect you knowing them.
The red stuff comes from the fact that a lot of them use those videos for TikTok and things like that.
No, I can dig it. I respect it.
But let me tell you what's happening in the Black community, and I see it on social media a lot. The growth of Trump and the growth of African Americans who turned to Trump, particularly men, did not come from Black conservatives like me. It came from men who voted Democrat who moved. When you get that 25 whatever percent you corrected me on of Black men that voted for Trump, that growth went from 10-12% and doubled. That didn't come from Black conservatives all of a sudden turning out. Those are Democrat voters, lifelong Democrat voters who moved. And you're seeing the same thing with white men as well. So, that's where we are.
No, good stuff. Got another comment from Kenny. Says, again, the Republican policies, where's the money to address mental illness? Your friend Ronald Reagan got rid of the 80s. Or you forget?
Actually, it was Jimmy Carter who signed a mental health act before Reagan was president, and Reagan said that it was going to happen, but they never fixed it. The point is, you're saying that a guy who was president in 1980 to 1988 got rid of something, and we're in 2025, and you have you've had Democrat presidents, you've had Democrat Senate majorities, Democrat congressional majorities, yet you go back to Reagan and they've done nothing. So again, let me say something. This show is about narratives, right? I can honestly get on here and tell people when I disagree with my side. I've heard Emil several times since we've been doing this, and I know it got sporadic, but we were doing it a lot in the beginning. Right. I've heard Emil disagree with his Democrat side. The problem with regular voters, I'm not talking about Emil as a consultant, I'm a talk radio host. There's a certain amount of our side that we have to do, right? I'm not saying I couch anything, I tell you the truth, but there's a certain amount for both of our side by the work and the way we put food on our table that has to happen. Right. Regular people should not be playing a side. They should not be. And when the person posted Reagan got rid of mental asylums, then why didn't the Democrats, when they had Obama, Biden, Clinton, why didn't they ever put it back? When you've had Democrat majorities in the Senate and the House over the years, because the split between Republicans and Democrats, why didn't you put it back? Like, why do you go back to 1981 to talk about what Reagan did? That's a failure of the voters to demand something. We've seen crazy people walking around our streets. We know they're there.
Right. Absolutely. Yeah, I've fed the homeless for 10 years. Like, right. So
I go down to Elizabeth Omalani, Hosea's Feed the Hungry, and when they used to do it at the Dome, before it became Mercedes-Benz, when they used to do it at the Dome, and we'd be down there, and you're standing there, and sometimes I was behind serving, but a lot of times I get there, I just walked around and was the one who delivered the food when there was too many to work it online, and they run the food out to the people. Take out mental illness of drug abuse. Take that out of it for right now, right? Absolutely. Many people in there should not have been walking around in the streets.
Yeah,
they should not have been.
I didn't get a chance.
It would have been more humane to put them someplace and almost lock them down and allow them to walk around in a big yard every day.
Well, that's kind of what we used to have in the 70s with mental illness, mental health, right? And so we're at the end of the show. I hate it because I want to go at you about these vaccines, but it is what it is. But just like you said, just having a real conversation to end this, I think we're having a very real conversation. Like I've known just from my 10 years of work with one of my friends who lived here. I worked with her for 10 years straight, with this particular issue. And it's hard for me to, I couldn't even say to her, for her, she has a thing that directly helps the homeless. So she's super passionate about it, right? The reality is, due to the mental illness like you're talking about, it doesn't matter what no policy does, as long as we don't cover them, there's at least a third of homelessness that's going to stay no matter what, due to the fact that, like you said, it's almost inhumane. Then you also have a third who would choose to remain. So in my 10 years of doing it, my personal anecdotal thought is, even if we got the policies exactly right about homeless, we would move about a third off of the streets. I'm talking about nationwide. Again, anecdotal.
But here's the thing:
experience. I'm not speaking as an expert, but just speaking honest right now.
Right. But I have several friends, my worshipful masters, shout out to them. Next Wednesday, they're doing a big gala here in Atlanta, Gateway Center. My past master, Raphael Holloway, runs it. And I'm sure, I don't know this for a fact, but I'm sure that third that wants to stay are not homicidal maniacs.
Yeah, I was friends with them, so
I
learned all kind of shit from them.
Right. The ones that want to stay, there's a sanity in why they want to stay. You know what I mean? There's a sanity in it. There's a clear thinking sanity in it. I love electronics and I love cable TV too much, but I understand the thinking beyond, living off the grid in a major city where there's free food everywhere and I can day labor, I can cut grass, I can do carpentry. I kind of like living like that.
A lot of them did that.
Right.
Emil, I'm sorry we did
Yeah.
today, bro.
No, it's on my side. Can you hear me okay?
You have to, but I know you.
No, I can't hear you, Emil. Nah,
I'm
just kidding.
He messing with you, joking with you. He messing with you.
look. The bigger policy. I worked on the homeless initiative under President Obama for the Department of Veterans Affairs, and I understand exactly what Montoya is saying. But I'm going to talk about the bigger propaganda policy issue, political
Emil,
and material.
I gotta cut you off 1 second, because I want to make sure if Shelly has to go, we honor that, and I want to make sure people hear how to listen to his show, just in case. Because if you, I want to let you finish.
I gotta go as well. Yep.
Yep. Go ahead.
So please tune in tonight. I'll be talking about a lot of this tonight. So please tune in. 95.5 WSB is the numbers. If you're in Atlanta, if you're outside of Atlanta, the easiest way to listen is WSBradio.com at 7 p.m. Please tune in. If you don't like it, don't ever come back. But if you like what you hear, we have a lot of fun. I weave in politics, culture, got the greatest bumper music in the history of talk radio. So please tune in, WSBradio.com tonight at 7. I appreciate you, Montoya. Emil.
Definitely one of my favorite shows in Atlanta. Let me say that as well before Shelly goes.
Yeah.
Emil,
love you, brother.
All right, Emil, go ahead with the thought, brother.
Yeah. So, in my opinion, the broader political narrative that we have to deconstruct is that political and material force.
Yeah, we got a bad signal today, Emil. It just didn't work out with you having a drive. Yeah, so I didn't get to a couple of cuts that I really wanted to challenge Shelly on. But we can't hear you right now, brother. So we're gonna go ahead and get people out of this thing. If y'all like what we're doing, please subscribe to the page. We'll be pop up next week. Sorry for the sporadic times, but it's not easy, as you can see, to get all three of us together. Shelly gets pulled into the station quite often, and Emil, he's a world traveler, so typically he's set up, in a much more stable place, but he wasn't able to today. So sorry, everyone, about some of the technical difficulties today, but I hope y'all enjoyed the show. Please share it with others if y'all think what we're doing is, our goal is to be a little different and weed through the propaganda, give you some real conversation as well. But with that said, subscribe to the page. Make sure you hit the notification button. That's how you know when we pop up live. You want to hit the notification. Once you subscribe, hit the drop down and hit the notifications. Because we drop up at sporadic times, you definitely want to have the notifications if you want to catch us live. All right, y'all. See y'all next week. Y'all have a great weekend. If you're in Atlanta, the Mental Dialogue Live experience happens September the 19th. Go to mentaldialogue.com, the smartest networking event in the city. One of our members is dropping their book, doing a book signing, and it's a game night, the smartest game night in the city next Friday at Urban Grind. Details at mentaldialogue.com. Holla at y'all. If you're tired of the propaganda, listen to us.